Hey everybody, Hunter, Fisher, Trapper, Trader, Guide, Scout, and Interpreter, and just a country cook, Steve Hall, here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with pretty Miss Sheila running that camera. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Today we're going to make chicken fried steak. It's a great southern recipe, and you're probably asking yourself, if you've never heard of it, what is chicken fried steak? Well, first of all, it's not chicken. It's steak, and it's kind of a cheaper cut of steak. Top round, bottom round, even sirloin, really tenderized. They take little flat cuts of it. Or if you don't want to buy round steak and bring it home and pound it and punch little holes in it, you can buy cube steak at the store. Just look for cube steak. And what is it? Let's see here. What is cube steak made from?
According to Wikipedia, cube steak is a cut of beef, usually top round or top sirloin, tenderized and flattened by pounding with a meat tenderizer or use of an electric tenderizer.
See, when they say electric tenderizer, that means I don't have to do it at home with that little puncher thing. I let the butcher run it through one of them machines, almost like the old clothes wringers you used to run your clothes through to get water out of. They take a sheet of that round, top round, bottom round, and they run it through this little slicer, and it punches all these little holes in so it can soak up all the goodies that we're going to put on it when we fry it. Come on over, let's get started. Now, first of all, we're going to need a wet and a dry mixture, and seasoning is everything. So let's make our dry mixture first. We're going to put in 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, not self-rising, just all-purpose. We're going to put in 1/4 cup of seasoning salt. Seems like a lot, but once you get it mixed around, a little bit of dusting on the steak, it doesn't get that much. We're going to put in 3 tablespoons of lemon pepper. Oh, this is going to be so good. And my contribution to this, because we've cooked so many other recipes that turned out so crispy, when you add a heaping tablespoon of cornstarch with your flour. Now what we're going to do, we're just going to mix that together. This is what we're going to put our cube steak in after we run it in our wet mixture over here, our batter. Boy, that just looks good with all them seasonings in there. All right. Now I'm going to set this out of the way. Get a bowl over here, something I can whisk in pretty good. Start out with about 4 eggs in here. And we're also going to put in about a heaping teaspoon of paprika in there. And then we're going to add our buttermilk. And what I'm going to do, kind of like making French toast, you don't need a lot. We'll try a 1/2 cup to start with and see how that whisks out with our egg mixture. See how it looks. With the 4 eggs, we're getting quite a bit of yellow to it, so we might go a little more, maybe 3/4 cup of buttermilk. That looks pretty good, along with our eggs and paprika. Again, it's like making French toast, only we're going to put this cube steak in it. Now we're going to double dip this. And let me move a few things around to get a little room. I'll be right back with you. All right, we got our mixture whipped up real good for this tray over here. I moved a bunch of stuff off this rack because that's where I'm going to let these rest. And what we want to do, you really need a dry hand and a wet hand, so I'm going to use my left hand to put it in the egg, and I'm going to use my right hand to put it in the flour. Now, as they say, we're going to baptize it twice. In the South, it's called double dipping. We're going to put it back in our egg mixture and then back in our flour mixture. Try to get my other hand involved without getting that big glob fingers. I'm not sure I can do it, but we'll see. We'll shake off the excess. Ooh, that's going to look good. We're going to lay it on this rack over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to batter up all 4 of these, double dipping them as we go here. There's the first go around. Shake it off. Back in the wet mixture. They do the same thing with catfish over at John A's. It's a restaurant here in Nashville, Tennessee, where Randy Travis started out singing years ago. and they double dip their catfish in the egg mixture, into the batter, back in the egg mixture, and back into the dry mix. So let me get all 4 of these on this rack, and I'll be right back with you. Did I double dip that one? I can't remember. Pay attention to your double dipping, Sheila.
Yeah, really.
Well, maybe we triple.
Going back and forth, back and forth.
We might have triple dipped this one. I don't know, but either way, it's going to be good. I can tell you that. And it's kind of like our Nashville hot chicken. It starts to get that golden look on it, and that's what you're looking for. All right. I've got another piece over here that might be a little bit bigger, but I'll just go with this little one for now. All right, and that's double dipped. Now we're going to let this rest for about 15 minutes so that moisture can soak into all that flour, and we'll show you what we're going to do next. Now my mom made the best fried chicken ever, and she used shortening, so what I do is I stick my metal spoon down the bottom, kind of get it warm, so when I get the shortening out of there, it comes right off the spoon. And what we want to do is put enough in here, not necessarily to deep fry it. We don't want it to be completely under, but we want about 1 inch deep, plenty deep to fry this in. And that looks like that might melt to be just about right. We'll see here. Maybe a little more, because we can always dump it out when we're making our gravy. Oh, that's right. We're going to make a gravy for this. It's outstanding. That's looking about 1/2 inch, maybe a little more. I'll put a little bit more in there. Let me get this up to 350 degrees. We'll be right back with you, and we're going to make these little chicken fried steaks take a bath in Lake Crisco. All right, our shortening's coming up to temperature. I love these little pour spouts on these cast iron pans because they keep your thermometer from rolling back and forth. And we're coming up right on 350. And you can use any kind of oil you want, really. You can use canola oil, peanut oil. Let's get these babies in here. All right. Vegetable oil, shortening, whatever you want. But we're going to put these in here. And you notice we have enough oil in there that kind of runs over the top, almost like deep frying, but not completely under. Now we're going to get these nice and golden brown, and we'll see you in just a little bit. Man, are these looking golden brown or what? We're going to get them nice and golden brown on both sides, and then we're going to put in another little batch, our second 2 steaks. These are looking really terrific, and I will tell you, I pulled almost a cup of oil back out of there to bring the oil level down just a little bit, let a little more of the steak stick out so it'd brown up better. So I got about 1/2 inch in there. Seems to work out good. I'm putting it over here on one of these racks. Sheila buys these racks for barbecuing, and they're real cheap. It's like 50 cents a piece, like $1 for 2 of them at the store. And I got some paper towels under there, but I don't really want to lay them on paper towels because I don't want them to suck the juice out of there. I just want them to be able to drain. So I want to keep all that flavor. Here's our second 2 steaks in there. And you notice that one little steak is gone because I replaced him with another full-size one here just so to have some uniformity there. But all right, let's get these golden brown. Might turn that up from medium to high a little more. And we'll turn them over, and we'll be back in a little bit. You know, I did pick a little piece of that breading off and tasted it, and it's delicious. I love the lemon pepper and all the stuff, but I'm going to back, in the next batch, I'm going to back the salt, the seasoning salt, down to 1/8 of a cup. It's not too salty, but I don't want it to be too salty for somebody that doesn't like that salty taste. It's good. It's really good, but start out with 1/8 of a cup. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. And I'll put it in the description box below. I always put all of our ingredients in the description box below. And I'm going to do a little experiment over here. I got 2 of these steaks laying on the rack, and I'm going to put 2 of them on the paper towel just to see how they turn out. And what we're going to do now is we're going to drain all of this grease out of here, and we're going to make our gravy. See you in a second. Would you look at all the goodness down in here? I'm going to take my whisk and kind of scrape the bottom of this. Keep all these little crumblies that are left in here, they're staying in the gravy. Now this morning, knowing I was going to do this recipe, when I made breakfast for Sheila and I cooked up a pound of bacon and I kept the bacon grease. This is about a half a cup, but I'm only going to use about a quarter of a cup of bacon grease. And I'm going to use the equal amount of flour. And this flour is the same flour, the same seasoning flour that we dredged these in. I just took it out of that little tub when I was done. I'm going to put in about the same amount. When you're going to make a roux, you always mix 50-50. 50% oil or bacon grease or whatever to 50% flour. And we're going to stir this constantly. I had the thing turned off, so I kicked it on high for just a second, but you don't want to cook your roux on high. You always want to cook it on either medium or medium low. Because if you burn the roux, you have ruined the recipe. We're going to stir this in here. You notice you hear that scraping on the bottom of the frying pan? I'm trying to get every little bit up off the bottom of the pan that I can for this gravy. All right. We should probably cook this really for a couple of minutes, but for the purpose of this recipe, we're going to go to the next step, which is I've got 2 cups of whole milk over here. We're going to add this in and keep whisking as we go. Now when you first dump it in, it looks pretty gnarly. Looks like, you know, slimy little scummy things on top, but don't let that scare you. Just keep stirring. It's going to get better and better. I'm going to keep back about a half a cup and keep stirring this. And this is going to get thicker and thicker as it goes. Ooh, it's already starting to thicken up. See that? This is going to be some good gravy. Let me turn this almost off already because I don't want it to burn. I'm going to add a little more. Keep stirring it. Oh man, talk about some gravy. And we're going to pour the rest of it in there. Now that's 2 cups of whole milk, a half a cup of bacon grease, or you can even use the oil that you fried this in. If you don't have bacon grease, just use the oil that you fried your chicken fried steak in. An equal amount of flour. Stir it on low medium heat for a couple of minutes. I kind of rushed it today. But then add your 2 cups of milk. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on low medium. Start it. And at this point, I'm going to add a little bit of kosher salt, maybe a quarter teaspoon, not much, and quite a bit, maybe a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Because I'll tell you something, them cowboys that come in off the range that want chicken fried steak, they want pepper in their gravy. Oh, it's looking delicious. Should thicken up here as we go. We'll just let it simmer for a little bit. Be right back with you. I said, Sheila, you think this needs to be a little thicker? She said, no. That's my kind of gravy right there. Now you just got to kind of eyeball your gravy when you're doing the recipe. If it's a little too thick, add a little more milk. A little too thin, you can actually put a cornstarch slurry in there at the end. If it's too runny, you can take like a tablespoon of water, tablespoon of cornstarch, whip it up in a glass, and just barely drizzle it in and start, stirring it up. It'll turn thick just like almost instantly. But this is Sheila's kind of gravy right here. And I'll tell you what we did. Because your gravy takes a few minutes to make, and you've already fried your chicken fried steak, we put this in the oven at 400 degrees for just about 5 minutes to reheat it nice before we plate it, so you're not having cold chicken fried steak. And I've been nibbling on that breading. It's not bad with that quarter cup of seasoning salt, but back it down to 1/8 just in case, and you can always add it. You can always put some on at the end. Let me see. Where's a nice little wooden spoon that'll take me a while to drizzle this on so I can torture everybody. What do you think, Sheila?
Looking good.
Well, I'll tell you what, you go out there and ring that triangle shaped dinner bell out there on the front porch, and the cowboys will come running up over the hill on their horses and want some chicken fried steak. Now when you serve this, I like to let a little of the chicken fried steak stick out each end of the gravy. And then I love to take a little bit of pepper and, believe it or not, kind of garnish it with pepper. Not much, just a touch, just to give it a little bit of color on top. And there you have it. I laid my spoon on there and made a little spot, so the only way to hide it is put the spoon back on. What do you think, Sheila?
That's pretty.
It does look great, don't it? A guy did send me a message one time. He said, I hate it when you cook the whole recipe, then you don't taste it at the end. Actually, I tasted the gravy over here, and it could use just a touch more salt, but that's a personal preference. But then I got thinking, wait a minute, this might be just a little touch on the salty side. Well, what if I don't do anything to either one of them, and I cut off a little bit of this chicken fried steak, dip it in this gravy. Wow. I'm sorry, but I had to turn the camera off for just a minute because I wanted to eat that real slow. It was so delicious. You're going to love this recipe. Chicken fried steak. Maybe cut back on the salt in the flour. You know, go back to instead of a quarter cup, go to an eighth a cup to start with. Maybe a touch more on the gravy. Of course, you'll sample that. We know you will. And get that combination so it's just flavorful. But those are great ingredients with that lemon, pepper, and all that stuff. Give it a try, and I really hope you enjoy this recipe. And we really hope you subscribe to our channel. That's pretty easy. When a little Shotgun Red's face pops up over here, you click on it when it says subscribe. We hope you click on that little bell right next to the word subscribe. That means you want to be notified every time we come out with a new recipe. We really hope you do that. We'll put another recipe over here that we hope you enjoy. And is this the most delicious chicken fried steak? By the way, it doesn't have any chicken in it that you ever ate. If it ain't, it ought to be. Steve Hall in Nashville, Tennessee, along with Sheila running the camera, saying we'll see you next time right here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. Say goodnight, Sheila.
Good night, Sheila.
Bye-bye for now.